So this morning, I am so happy to introduce someone that I have been wanting to speak to for ages, to my listeners. They probably, most of them already know you, Wendy, but we have got Wendy Smith here today. And Wendy, I mean, your bio is just unbelievable. You're a speaker, you're a radio presenter, you're an author, you're a PTSD removal specialist, and the thing that has impressed all of my family more than anything, a Paralympian.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just amazing. What a bio. That takes some living up to. I mean, first of all, before we really get to know you up close and personal, how are you doing today? How are you doing this week, this year?
Well, I'm going to say I'm good, and that's pretty much it. I'm good. So
Yeah.
sun's out at the moment, which is lovely. But January for me is always a month of introspection. So I like to semi-hibernate. So, get rid of anything you don't need for this year coming up, and whether that's emotional stuff, old baggage, whatever it may be. So I spend January sort of clearing out the mind, body and the house, if that makes sense.
That's so important, and something I really want to speak about today, because I think anyone who's watching my channel, probably most of the people watching yours, we're all quite a similar mindset. And I think my real focus for this Pumpkin joining us, you've got a live audience, you've got Pumpkin the cat here, and you've got Lola and Indy the dogs here. So live audience, everyone. Yeah, I think this year for so many of us is about really living our lives and getting on with our lives. And this is something you are so passionate about, as in terms of people reaching their full potential. But for those of you that don't know you, can you just give us a little synopsis of your background, from your accident to how you've got to where you are now? Because it's a pretty inspirational story.
Yeah, I suppose I really should start with a little segment of childhood, really, because my parents have got an awful lot to do with where I am obviously now at the moment, through the mindset that they instilled in me and my sister. So we grew up in a pub. Prior to having the pub, my mum was an accountant for the council and my dad was a test driver for Ford's Motor Company. So one very practical, one very academic, both very, very intelligent people. And then Granny and Grandad wanted to retire, so we sort of swapped houses. They owned the pub. So we went from, and I think Mum and Dad at the time thought, this is going to be a lovely environment because we get to spend most of the time with the kids. I don't really think they realised it was going to be a 24/7 job. So we very quickly, all of us as a family, went on a learning curve of you've got to be quite self-supporting. And it was, if you wanted to do something, the question would be, can you do it yourself first before someone would come and help you? So that was sort of like the pub background. And obviously the pub background had two sides to it as well, the good and the bad and the ugly, so to speak. And I grew up with just a love of cars. So my mum, she's a very outdoorsy type person, loves animals. We always had chickens, where Mum grew up with ponies. So my sister had a pony, and, we were quite privileged in that sense, but made to work as well. So we grew up with work ethic. If you wanted pocket money, it wasn't just, oh, here you go to the shops. It was like, well, what job are you going to do to earn it? So we grew up in an environment where you learn the value of something. And then for me, I loved playing about with cars with my dad. So Dad was always fixing things, whether it be a lawnmower or a motor. So I wanted to actually be a car mechanic when I left school. And I hated school. Couldn't understand why my parents had put me in this place when I was having so much fun at home. And I probably learned more at home with the parents than what I did at school anyway. So I just turned into an athlete, basically. I used to get told off in class a lot because I wouldn't concentrate. I'd ask a lot of questions and, I'd be told I was a pain, can you just be quiet? And so I ended up just doing sport. And I thought, well, I don't really need any education because I'm going to be a car mechanic. That all went out the window when I left school. Had an accident when I was 17 on the back of my friend's motorbike. We were doing about 100 miles an hour around a back road and we hit a drain cover. Unfortunately for Paul, my mate who was driving, he got thrown off the bike, but I stayed with it. So I ended up getting slammed into a wall. The bike hit me in the chest when it followed me across the road. And I ended up with like multiple injuries. So I broke T4, T5, T6, and I got what they call a spinal cord lesion at T6. So a sever to the spinal cord, broke quite a few ribs, punctured my lung, fractured my skull. And I think I had 4 cardiac arrests over the next period of like 48 hours. So obviously died a few times as well. The prognosis in hospital, when I woke up on a ventilator, whatever point that was later, I know my parents were taken to the hospital and told, we don't think she's going to survive. We need everybody here. Obviously I did survive because I'm sat here talking to you, but it was a very long process. I remember waking up in intensive care with something breathing for me, and the first thing the doctor said to me was, you've had a very nasty accident, you've broken your back, you're not going to walk again, so you're paralyzed from the chest down. So it was like more of a don't panic. If you can't move from the chest down, don't panic. It's because you've, you know, had a spinal injury, but it means that you're probably not going to walk again. And to be honest, they'd got me on so many drugs, I didn't even know what he was saying at that point. It was only later on when I came off the ventilator after 2 or 3 weeks that, you know, people would start having a conversation with me, medical staff, saying, you know, when you're in a wheelchair, and I'd be thinking, what are you people talking about? You know, I'm going to be fine. And the odd thing for me, Catherine, was my head, this is where I got interested in like belief systems that we'll get into later on. But my head, even though people were telling me you're not going to walk, my head was going, you're fine. Pay no attention to them. I just had this little voice constantly going, you're all right, you're all right. And so I got moved to Stoke Mandeville in Aylesbury, the National Spinal Injury Centre. Spent 3 months on bed rest, literally laying flat on my back. Still
can I just ask, did your friend survive?
Yeah, he was fine. This is the really horrible thing about all of this, is that my mate had nothing wrong with him.
Wow.
So can you imagine standing in his shoes?
Oh,
as far as he was concerned, you know, he'd nearly killed his best mate.
Yeah.
As far as I was concerned, it was my choice to get on the bike, and I always used to tell him to go faster. And realistically, if I'd have been riding it, we'd have probably been doing an extra 20 mile an hour faster. Yeah. It was bad. You know, we were 17. You think you're invincible.
So did you, at this stage, sorry to interrupt, but so you weren't carrying blame for him about the accident?
No, because
it was amazing.
You know, for me, it was choice.
Yeah.
It was my choice. I could have been out on my bike that evening. It could have happened to me. You know, it was obviously the way I look at things. That was meant to happen for a reason, to anchor me up in life and make me make some different choices. I was, up until that point, you know, I'd been a very angry kid. I was quite a violent teenager. And I think this was literally like a boom, here you go, going to stop you in your tracks and allow you to contemplate where you want to go in life. And that's what I truly believe it was. A bit of a, you know, quite a harsh one, but a bit of an anchor up so I could contemplate different things in life. So I spent 3 months bed rest. About the final day of bed rest, I remember my sister playing with my feet, and she said, your big toe's moving. And I was like, is it? You know, I was bored at this point because she used to do puppet shows with my feet and wind me up and do epaulettes ladies up my leg, loads. It was like torture with my sister. Because I couldn't move, she used to wind me up and go like, well, I'd go, I'm going to kill you. And she'd go, yeah, when you can get out of bed and chase me. You know, she was lover for that, really. But she said, your toe's moving, so move your toe. And I remember staring at my toe and going, move, move. And it was twitching. And at that point, my head was like, see, I told you, you're fine. And I showed the doctors, and the doctors were like, oh, well, it could be, you know, just a spasm. And I was thinking, oh, what's wrong with these people? Just get on board the Wendy and Tom train that's going that way. And they basically said to me, so the long and short hospital was, when you can walk 10 paces on crutches, we'll let you go. And because I'd started getting up on my feet, the physios weren't really helpful. So me and my sister, I was very cantankerous and very angry in hospital as well. People say, what drove you to like stay on your feet? I said, sheer frustration and anger.
Yeah,
literally, you know, I wouldn't recommend those emotions normally, but for me, that was what kept me going. So I remember walking 10 paces on crutches and literally saying, just let me go home now. And that was after 8 months.
Wow. 8 months. Oh my gosh.
Long time away from home. Long time, especially at 17 years old as well.
And horrendous for your parents as well, who must have just had a horrendous time through this, because, you know, having that business to run and having their daughter somewhere else and probably thinking what is going to happen to the rest of her life. Yeah,
I mean, the funny thing was Dad bought a new car so he could get to the hospital quicker. He bought himself like a Sierra 4x4, 2.9 inches and things, so he could, like, it looked like a police car as well, so he could have it up the motorway and back. It was before loads of speed cameras.
Yeah.
Dad used to visit basically every day, and Mum would come up, like, because someone had to run the pub, so Mum would do like 3 or 4 days. Granddad would be up a lot. My sister would be up virtually every other day. My best mate. So I had like a constant roll of visitors, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The people were there, but I mean, we were, Stoke Mandeville, an hour and a half. Nearly a 2-hour drive from where I live.
Wow.
So, you know, it's a lot of traveling for those guys as well. And obviously the unsurety of what was going to happen.
Yeah, and as particularly at that age, you know, I mean, I love getting older because life becomes so much easier without these obstacles. But, you know, at 17, 18 years old, to be going through that, no wonder it set you off on a different trajectory, that you could have gone one way into self-despair, but you chose to really discover what the human mind and body were really capable of.
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time. I went into had serious mental health problems when I came out of hospital, because obviously I got back to the pub thinking life's going to be normal now. You know, I'm just going to be able to walk up the stairs, get into my bed, you know, go back to doing all the things I used to do, horse riding with my sister, mountain biking. No. I remember getting home to the pub on the first day thinking, yeah, I'm home, like the dogs, do you know what I mean? Seeing my dogs, I'd not seen them for, well, mum and dad managed to bring them up to the hospital once, but it was a bit of a nightmare for them because they weren't really used to going out in cars and that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so just seeing the dogs and thinking, oh, I just want to get in my bed. And I was on the second floor in the pub. I had like dad had made me like a what do you call it, a penthouse in the attic.
Yeah, lovely.
And I was just thinking, oh, bed. And I remember going to walk up the stairs and not being able to lift my feet and thinking, oh, you know, this is really frustrating. How are we going to do this? And I remember, I don't know if it was dad, I think it was dad said, you know, let me carry you. And I was like, well, if I do that, I might as well just sit in a wheelchair and not bother. So I turned around and went up on my backside, and it was like the easiest way to get up and down the stairs. But then obviously that would be frustrating. So if you needed to go to the loo, you do down. And then, you know, carrying things, I couldn't carry a cup of tea. You know, it's all the simple things that you just take so much for granted.
Yeah.
Just lift your leg up a step, pick a cup of tea up and walk without spilling like 3/4 of it. You know, it was hard work. I just felt like I was dragging this body about with me.
Yeah.
And obviously that, because my mind has never been any different. And this is the odd thing. I don't dream disabled dreams. You know, every night I go to bed, I dream I'm able-bodied. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, yeah. And then I go, thud. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. So, you know, it's a really interesting mix that I have on the inside.
It's just fantastic. But you've just, throughout this journey, you've just had this mental ability, and as you hit on such an important point, that, you know, the frustration and the anger got you through, and we sort of label things, don't we, as positive or negative or good or bad, but sometimes there's a real need for these things, aren't there, to kick in that survival instinct and get you through these most toughest times that anyone could go through.
Yeah, it got me to redirect a lot of the energy I was using in the wrong spaces, into other places. And I mean, it was, you know, I got to the point where I was suicidal a lot of the time. I mean, my mum and dad, I remember them saying to me, I don't really remember the circumstances, but when I think I was in between 18 and 19, and they took me to Mexico for a few weeks for a holiday, because apparently I was suicidal. I was waking up every day just saying I want to kill myself. And they said, right, enough is enough. Let's take her away, give her a break, get some sunshine, some warmth, you know, spend some time with her, sort of, hopefully that'll make her feel a bit better. It did. I had a lovely time. So I met someone out there who taught me how to snorkel and stuff like that. And
wow.
I love spending time with the parents anyway. Yeah, so that sort of kicked me out of it a little bit. Then you come back to reality, you know, and then it's like, well, what can I do for a job?
Yeah.
You know, I can't stand up for more than 5 minutes because my back hurts. I can't sit down for more than 5 minutes because my back hurts. It's, you know, it was just, yeah, life. I just didn't know where to go. I was really lost for a long period of time. So I just went raving instead. So I basically buried my head in a base bin in a warehouse for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sort of like buried my head in the sand and thought, oh, well, I was still going to the gym every single day for like 4 or 5 hours a day with a really good gym instructor, and we were just trying to make everything look normal. So even though I was doing, you know, I'd gone raving and just thought I need to just, you know, let off steam over here, I was every day doing what I thought was right to get my body back. But I had no idea what I was doing physiotherapy wise. I just thought if the muscles look normal, they'll work.
Yeah.
I say I just hit, this is the thing about the belief systems. I hit so many belief systems with people that would read my medical history, and then they'd put a belief around it, like, well, because you did X, Y, Z, we can't do this. And I'd be like, just show me how to make it work. You know, I'll wear leg splints. I go, they're not helpful. Show me how to make it work. You know, my stomach, I because I was an athlete beforehand, so very fit at school. And I had a lovely flat stomach. And obviously after the accident, all the muscles wasted away, and, you know, I was a bit bent over like this and legs sort of bent in. And I remember saying to a physiotherapist when I was 21, I think, I want to sort, oh no, this is one of my doctors up at Stoke Mandeville actually. And it just made me laugh. And I said, I want to sort my stomach out and get my stomach muscles back. How do I do that? And she said, just wear a girdle. I was 21 years old, you know, when you're just like,
oh my God.
Right, okay, then I'll go do that myself then, shall I?
It's a bit like I didn't realise I've got really bad hearing loss, and I wear 2 hearing aids. And people say, at what age did that kick in, Wendy? And I'm like, well, I don't know, because it was just completely not diagnosed when I was younger. I thought everyone couldn't hear what the teacher was saying. But then when I then went to the National Health Service and got hearing aids, and I was getting this awful feedback in one of the hearing aids and not the other. And I can remember sitting there, and the audiologist just said, well, you just got to cut your hair off. You'll just have to have a mullet and have to cut your hair off. And I was like, fuck's sake, it's a hearing aid. This one, with all my hair over, isn't doing it. This one is. Don't you sit there and tell me just to cut my hair off over my ears, sort the bloody hearing aid out. And isn't it weird how you encompass these people? So how has that must have really set you on that journey for all these skills that you've got under your belt now, in terms of mind over matter and what we are really capable of?
Yeah, pretty much, because obviously the mental health stuff that I suffered, I mean, that is mainly why I went out and just partied for 5 years, because it was like, I can't deal with this stuff. And when I was out, I was having fun. People didn't treat me any different, you know, everyone had known me prior, so it wasn't like, yeah, I just wasn't treated any different. And it was like my escape. But then when I came back into reality again, and it was serious, just mental health problems, just waking up every day thinking, I'm done with this, I don't think I can do this.
Yeah.
You know? But then obviously because of my family and my friends, I also had that pull where I wasn't strong enough to actually kill myself, because I cared too much about what I'd leave behind and how they would feel. So that was, you know, a good thing. That's the reason why I got a dog as well, funny enough, because if I had a dog,
yes,
that relies on me, and, you know, that's it, that's mine, that was my focus as well. So all that happened really was, after a few years when I stopped going out partying, I thought, right, come on, got to sort myself out. My mum and dad still had the pub. I got friends who own a car auction, so between them they used to let me work for them, just like cash in hand, come and do what you like, 10 minutes, 3 hours, you know, whatever you want. Because the really interesting thing was, in those days the disability people wouldn't let me work. So they said, if you can't do over 16 hours a week, you can't work. And I was like, well, how's that going to help my mental health?
wow.
You know, you lot of lunatics, sort something out, just allow me to work and tax me on it if you have to. I don't care, I just need to be doing something. And they were like, no. And then I threatened them with legal action in, I don't know, mid to late 90s. And I said, right, well, you know, as far as I'm concerned, this is a breach of my human rights. I'm going to take you to court. And they went, oh, no, you can go on option 3. I went, oh, go on then, what's option 3? So they let me work if I had a support worker, and I could work as many hours I want without anyone questioning it, as long as I had a support worker. It took me a year to find a support worker. They don't make these things easy. But when I got that, I could just do what I wanted, which meant it did literally mean I might walk into work and go, oh, another back start, I've got to go home. But because of the people I was working for, they were so good, because they knew I just needed to rehab.
Yeah.
And then that led to me, I got to a certain point in life where I just thought, I need to do something more. And then I discovered wheelchair basketball.
So that was a complete turning point in your life then. Yeah.
Massively, because again, I was doing stuff. I'm not a sitter about type of person. You know, I come from a family that's very active. You just get up, get done, get on. Doesn't matter what's wrong, just get over it, get on with it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much there's no such word as can't.
That's very like my family, actually. Yeah. When you were describing your stuff upbringing your parents, it sounds very similar to mine, really.
Yeah. I'd go, oh, I can't do that. There's no such word as can't.
Yeah.
You know,
it's not fair. My sisters used to say, and my dad would say, life's not fair, get on with it.
Yeah, that's pretty much,
you know,
yeah. Everybody's money's the same colour.
Yeah.
In a pub, so I'm the least racist, you know, biased person you'll ever come across, because I've been brought up, everybody is the same. It's very interesting. But the wheelchair basketball, a mate of mine took me, because funny enough, he'd broke his back the year before, slightly different place to me and not quite as severe. And he started playing basketball. I didn't even know there was a local team. And he said, come along, have a go. And I was thinking, wheelchair, what? How do you play basketball in a wheelchair? And I remember going there, falling out the chair, hitting my head, hitting my elbows, getting smashed in the face with the ball, nearly breaking my fingers in the wheels. You know, I went through it literally was hell for 3 hours. But the funniest thing, I just laughed. I laughed for 3 hours. I was useless. I didn't shoot one basket. Do you know what I mean? Probably only caught a ball twice, but I was literally, Catherine, crying with laughter for 3 hours. And when I went home, I thought, I'm going back and I'm going to get good like those guys. And within 3 months, I was in the Great Britain women's team. And then by 2004, I was at Paralympic Games.
That just gives me goosebumps when you say that, Wendy, because, you know, so many people at the moment, everyone's situation is completely different. You know, we're all living our own unique lives. But to see how quickly something, when you find your passion like that, that your life can turn round. And so many people struggle with that, don't they, in terms of, because you get to they get to various stages in their life and think there is no way of turning this round. So when you found that and you got the other Paralympics and everything, I mean, talk me through that experience, because that must have just been so incredible for you. Well,
it's all a bit odd, to be honest, because I was a new player, and how it happened was my coach, Alan Mansell, his name is, right? He's about 7-8 years younger than me. He's hysterical. And he said to me, like after 3 weeks of playing, he went, there's a GB tryout in a couple of months. I think we should go, and you should go for like the women's team. And I was like, oh, shut up, Alan. I don't even know the rules. Do you know what I mean? I can barely push a chair and I shoot like a netballer. And he laughed and he said, I'm telling you now, Wendy, because I've always been like physically fit. He said, you're more of an athlete. This is going to sound awful to the girls, but he said, you're more of an athlete than the team is already. Right. Yeah. He said, just go, it'll be a laugh. So I was just like, oh yeah, whatever. So, you know, the 3-month thing come up. He'd already booked me a spot. Wow. So me and him went up on a Saturday, and he said to me, whatever you do today, just have fun. Just have fun. So I was, you know, just pushing about, having a laugh. You know, I wasn't the best player there by any like shot whatsoever. But I was having fun, and I would have a go at anything the coaches asked me to do. And obviously we finished the day, you know, me and Alan went home. I didn't think another thing about it. I just thought, well, that was fun. Do you know what I mean? We'll get back to playing in the league now, and I'll learn how to play this game. And then I get a letter in the post saying, we'd like to invite you into the team. And I thought, these people are mental. And when I went down to meet the coaches, I said, why have you invited me in? Because I don't even know the rules. Do you know what I mean? He went, because you look like an athlete and you've got potential. And that was the first time anyone had said that to me. And I was like, oh, I have potential. Interesting. So, and because I'd had that said to me, I thought, I wonder how far my potential can go. And then, like I say, then I ended up at the, you know, within 16, 18 months, I was at the Paralympic Games. So
how did that change your life, that experience? Because so many people never have that. I mean, every culture is different and every challenge is different, but so many people of all different ages never have someone to believe in them.
Yeah, well,
our
parents always did. So the interesting thing was in our background, me and my sister were treated slightly different because Helen was the first one. She was only a year in front of me, and then I was literally just left to run wild, sort of thing, and do whatever you like, kid, as long as you're happy, you know, which was, it was helpful, but in some ways not helpful, if you know what I mean, because well, I can just do what I want that makes me happy, and the only person's authority I had to worry about was Dad's. So that didn't help teachers and stuff. But yeah, having someone say that, I wanted to perform for the coach. So because he'd said that, I thought, I need to make you proud of me. So not myself. I didn't realize about self at that point. It was more the fact if someone believes in me, I'm not wanting to let you down. I want to make you proud of me. Yeah. So I trained and trained and trained and trained and trained. And yeah, that sort of the first thing of feeling a bit of motivation, but it was actually an external motivation. It wasn't internal.
Yeah.
And how it changed my life was when I got to the Paralympic Games and I met all of the other teams from all the different countries. I was one of the older athletes. I think I was 30. Well, I only came into playing basketball when I was 28. And I was 30 when I went to the Paralympics. And it was speaking to lots of athletes, and I listen. I'm always listening. And I never like anyone feeling bad about themselves. I always like to, you know, find something good in someone. And I remember people going, oh yeah, but I'm not as quick as her. Or, you know, if I just had the muscles like him, or if I could just shoot like that. And I think, like, wow, like, you're a Paralympian, you should be going, yeah, do you know what I mean? I love defense, I'm a defensive specialist, you know, but I wasn't finding that a lot. It was more the fact that people were telling me their pain points. Wow. And their negative belief systems. And I thought, wow. And when I came back from that experience, I thought, how can I help these people? Because if that's happening at that level, and then I started noticing it everywhere throughout the clubs and, you know, even with coaches and stuff. And it was like, wow, there's a lot of like negative mindset in here. And it tied in, actually, at the time, I was still having serious mental health issues. So what happened was two things. First one, a friend of mine sent me off, literally packed me off on an NLP practitioner course.
Yeah.
She said, you need to go and find out what you're doing to yourself. She said, I'm not telling you what it is. Go see my mate. I went and did a 7-day intensive course with this wonderful woman called Catherine Temple. And it changed my life because I became aware of the thoughts, you know, how the body runs, what I'm doing to myself. And then I trained as a level 1 coach, then a level 2 coach, because I thought, how can I help these people feel good about themselves playing basketball? How can I help drag out their potential rather than them feel bad looking at someone else and comparing themselves to someone else and feeling a lack? And I thought, I'll become a coach. That's what I'll do. So I did. And I combined like the NLP, the mindset stuff with my coaching very successfully, because basically every team I coached, we won the league every year. Brilliant. And it was through the fact of literally letting these guys play basketball and keep pulling the stuff out of them. Because what I found was a lot of coaches, and this is true, I'm going to say a lot of coaches, bit of a blanket, were what I call negative affirmation coaches. They would constantly tell you what you're doing wrong, but they wouldn't tell you when you're doing it right or give you an adjustment when you were doing it wrong. So how I coach differently, when someone's constantly getting something wrong, I'll just stop them and go, right, it's not working for you because, you know, your hand's in the wrong place. If you move your elbow in and you do this, you know, look where you're shooting, you'll get a result. Go and have another go. So I would give them an adjustment. And as soon as they hit it right, I would anchor it with, that's the one. How did that feel? Do you know what I mean? So every time they hit it right, I would do some form of anchoring with them. So they'd get a good feeling for shooting the right shot. And every time they got it wrong, I'd just ignore them. Yeah. So I wouldn't say anything, or I'd give an adjustment. Hand, elbow, eyes. But it wouldn't be like, oh, why are you always hitting the wrong? You know, and what I found is players started getting happier. People started playing as a team better. You know, they started understanding each other better. And yeah, it just seemed like a common sense way of doing things.
But don't you find, Wendy, that, you know, looking at how that goes into the current situation, therein lies the problem. They don't imply common sense. I mean, my children are both really good athletes, and my daughter is a really, really good footballer, and she's been through like the elite pathway, and I can still remember now sitting there. So I'm very much like you. I'm very much like looking at what's possible, what's possible, what's possible. And I can remember them sitting there. They must have been about 14. I'm not going to mention the club because my daughter will kill me. And the top guy from the club sitting there. And these were all the people that were in the elite pathway saying, well, you know, the chances are none of you will make it. And you're like, you're pounding all this effort, but you're backing that up by telling them that none of them are going to make it. None of them are going to make it. And I sat there and I just couldn't believe it. My daughter's sitting there saying, don't say anything. Don't say something.
Please, Mum.
I was going to. But I was like, how can you possibly be running an elite pathway and then mentally just
hammering the granny out the athletes? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's just so silly. But then no wonder we're in this mess we're in. No wonder the vast majority of people think they're powerless to change their lives. Yeah, well, that comes in through indoctrination. It's a good old system they've been running for a long period of time to get people to, you know, we ring a bell, you stand up, we ring a bell, you sit down, you put your hand up to ask a question. You all wear the same uniform. You come in at this time, you go at that time, you know, you do as you're told or you get reprimanded. It's interesting, people never consider that, you see, and I think this is where me and my sister are lucky, and some of my friends, we grew up with similar type parents. You know, the only person I was ever scared of as a child was my dad. Yeah. And it was not because he ever laid a finger on me, it was his tone of voice and face. Yeah.
Right? And it was always the threat of, you wait till your dad gets home. No, I'm sorry, I'll be
Yeah.
back, you know. And it was one of the things, we grew up, we knew that the police were there to help us.
Yes.
So my dad, mum and dad always said, you're ever in trouble, you phone the police, they're there to help you. And that was all I ever grew up in my head, especially being in the pub, they're there to help you. And we had a local copper in those days, John Tingy his name was, loved the bloke. And he was our local village policeman.
I remember the village policemen, they were amazing.
Oh, he knew every single kid.
Yeah.
He all came from all of our parents, and he always knew where we were.
Yeah.
So the night I had my accident, when he heard on the radio that a bike had crashed, he knew exactly who it was. So he actually told my dad straight away, and my dad was at the hospital before I arrived there in the ambulance. That's how good our local policeman was. So for me, if I'd ever got in trouble, I never worried about the police. I've been at the police station a few times. It weren't them I was worried about. It was getting home and having a conversation with dad. But that is, you know, that's the difference to the indoctrination system, as we were talking about. You've been taught through fear-based learning, the vast majority of your life, that if you don't do as an authority figure says, you're in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which means that we end up like we're ending up now, of everyone just following a narrative and not even questioning it.
And not even, you know, question and not believing that they have the power to make a difference. So one of the things I loved in your bio so much that really stood out for me was be conscious of what you're thinking, because the universe always says yes. And that is so, so important, isn't it?
I mean, massively. And, you know, on many different levels as well, depending on what your beliefs are about energy. And, you know, I love a bit of quantum physics, and we have this morphogenic field that every cell of our body has a morphogenic field, everything around us, and the whole non-local communication field is full of it as well. So whatever you're running through here is sending out, number one, direct signals out there for what you're looking for in life. Yeah. It's like a little radar, you know, as you say things in your head that you don't even notice are happening, they're having an effect on everything around you to make sure that stuff starts coming towards you to fulfill you, because your human system is built to support and love you. So any question you ask, anything you tell it, it goes, oh, okay, I'll make that happen. So an example would be, if you wake up feeling sad in the morning and you go, oh yeah, everything in my life is terrible, you know, oh, I'm so sad, no one loves me and all this, your unconscious literally goes, oh, we want to find that stuff today, do we? No worries, I'll delete all of the lovely stuff out of your environment and I'll show you the tiny little dot of sadness everywhere. The music, the stuff on the TV, people's faces, you know. You'll see 500 people smiling, but you'll only remember the 2 that were really miserable, just because of what you're sending out. And then also on the other side of it, the deeper side for the internal connection is every single thing you think has a chemical reaction in the body.
Absolutely.
And it'll make you feel one or the other. You know, so you can create self-fulfilling prophecy loops of greatness or self-fulfilling prophecy loops of despair. And it's just based on what's running through this thing and whether you're paying attention to it or not. And that's pretty much what I work in, awareness, you know, in all different levels. Become aware of it if you want to own it and change it. You know, if you're not aware of it, how can you own it and change it?
Exactly. And animals are such a gift to us, aren't they, in terms of picking up our energy field and reflecting back truly where we're at. And I always say, I mean, you know, be like a cat. There's not one bit of Pumpkin that doesn't think he's amazing and can do anything.
Massively. I mean, I lost my little boy. I'm just going to have to show you a picture. It's right next to me. But he passed away from cancer a year ago, literally a couple of days ago. But that's him and his best mate Daisy. He's the staffy. His name was Caesar. Oh, his little smiling face. And that was his best mate, a Bernese mountain dog. But he was my rock. I had him 13 and a half years, got him at 6 weeks old. And he would just, every state I was feeling, he would react to it and do something with it. He used to regulate my time on the laptop.
Yes.
I was doing too much work. He'd literally walk in and stand on me here. So his face would be in front of mine, and he would just keep nudging me in the face and kissing me until I shut the laptop.
This is what I like. I mean, I said to you this, didn't I, before we go on now? It's just is what I absolutely love is the fact about the animals is they really do regulate you and you get you back out to where you need to be and everything. So
massively.
Oh, it's just such a gift that we do have them in our lives, isn't it? It really is. So at the moment, you know, we are faced with a lot of people who are very much externalizing their lives in terms of that feel that everyone and everything else has got control over them and not themselves.
Yeah.
So what would be some of your words of wisdom for people that are feeling like that through all the brainwashing they've been subjected to, about how they can avoid being controlled by others? How do you avoid being controlled by others?
Oh, well, long old process of unpicking the system. A lot of the stuff that we do obviously has been, like I say, ingrained and indoctrinated into us. So if you look at yourself like a computer system, or I say this is an easy way to look at yourself, like a phone, that when you're born, you're a blank iPhone. And then over the first 7 years of your life, everybody around you and everything around you downloads apps onto your iPhone, right? And then when you get to like 8, 9 years old, you open the phone, you go, oh, what apps have I got in here? And you start opening apps, but they're not yours, they're other people's.
Yeah.
So the first thing to start with is, I just say to people, just have a look at life and just go, actually, my language patterns, where did they come from? What's successful and what's not within my language patterns? First of all, you know, the things you say, oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, that's always a problem. You know, just start paying attention to your language, and then just started noticing what is positive and what is not within that. And then where did that come from? Because it gives you an understanding. Oh, actually, yeah, one of my teachers always used to say to me at school, oh, you know, why are you so slow? You're always the last one to finish, and da 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 da. And it's like, wow, I've carried that saying all the way through my life now, and now I unconsciously limit myself with that. Do I want that app on my iPhone? No, I don't think so. So I'm going to work at removing that app first, and then have a look at like your energy management. You know, so all I mean by that is, what state are you creating? The right state throughout the day, or a right old state? So just start paying attention. Awareness is the key to all change. First of all, just pay attention to, what are my energy levels like throughout the day? Do I get up in the morning and the first thing I do, dive straight on my phone and do all the WhatsApps and, you know, everybody else's agenda first? How does that make me feel? Do I get up and put the TV on? How does that make me feel? You know, just start paying attention to life. And I can tell you what, this is the biggest challenge you'll ever have, because we run on autopilot.
Oh my God, yeah.
We have to have an autopilot system, otherwise we'd never function. And the thing is, you know, some of the things I give my clients to do, and I go, do it for 7 days, and then I'll check in on you and see where you are. And I go, how many times have you done that? They're like, I don't know, I didn't even think about it again when I left your house, Wendy. And I go, can you see how much autopilot programming you have now? And they're like, wow, yeah. Your brain will just go back into the old mode. So you really have to pay attention. So I just say to people, just be aware, make notes. How do I feel daily? You know, when I do this, what do I do? Do I use language like, you've made me really angry?
Yeah.
You've really hurt me. You know, because I say, an old saying from one of my trainers, if you can't put it in a wheelbarrow and push it, that means that you create it on your inside of yourself, because it doesn't exist. Hurt, anger, sadness, happiness, joy, motivation, determination, commitment, all of these things are things that come from the inside of you. Someone can't give them to you. And so I say to people, own the language. So this is a really, really powerful place to be in, when you get to that point where you can actually say, if you have a response to someone, it's your response, it's not them. They're just showing you who they are when they're talking to you. That's all they're doing. So if you feel yourself getting angry on the inside, verbalize it differently and own it. Go, this is how I would normally do it. I'd go, wow, that sentence you just said, on the inside of me now, I'm running like massive amounts of anger. What was the purpose behind you saying it? And they'll go, oh, no, it wasn't to get you angry. Do you know what I mean? So they get to own something, but even more so, you're owning that anger. And then you have a choice whether you give it out or not. But at least I've told someone that I'm running it. This stuff is mine and I'm feeling it on the inside now. What's your purpose behind that? You know, and then, but that makes you powerful. So then if you really needed to use the anger, you could use the anger. Yeah. But you do it through informed choice and ownership, not because it's like a reaction. Do you know what I mean? Oh, completely. Does that make sense? It's fantastic. I'm laughing when you're saying this, because as a parent, there's no better mirrors back to all the cock-ups you've made. And when you see your children repeating, you're like, oh, that came from me. I have to own that one definitely came from me. So yeah, I'm laughing. Sorry, kids. I'll apologize now in advance. But what I'm loving, probably one of the most things that has just really been so wonderful over the shit show of the last 2 years, really, that globally people might think has come upon us suddenly,
has been the conversations like this, the conversations and getting people like you to the awareness of more people so that they realize, okay, I might be here now. I'm aware that I might be here now and I'm not having the best life that I want, but now I know someone that can help me do something about it. So you've written 2 books as well, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Both of them were just things that I needed to get out of my head. So the first one was a basketball book, the quick fix guide to wheelchair basketball. The reason I wrote that was because after 5 years, I was then taught the stuff I should have been taught 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So basically, I've written a book, which is if you're just starting out, or if you're a family member who just wants to know about it, you know, or even seasoned players, some of the stuff in there they probably won't even know still. Yeah. So I just thought, this is my quick fix guide. So if you're starting wheelchair, just read it. It's got lots of pictures in it, and it will show you how to do the stuff that no one explains to you for 5 years. And you'll be having people screaming at you on court to perform these things, and you'll have no idea what they're talking about. It was also named after a friend of mine whose nickname was Quick Fix. And he loves, he's a wheelchair basketball player, and he just loves the NBA and stuff. And he taught me trick shots and, you know, loads of stuff that just took my basketball playing ability to another level. So that was like the reasoning behind that. And the other one is the good marketing behind me. I'm getting good at this. 50 Ways to Change. The reason I wrote that is just a quick personal development book. I've read so many personal development books over the years, and I loved every one of them, but they never told me what to do.
Yeah.
So they give you all this information. I'd go, lovely. What do I do with it? You know, so what that is, it's my 50 favourite pieces of awareness raising information, things that just, you know, triggered me or made me think or raised my awareness around the power of the human system. And then the second part of the book is how to apply it to life. So I've put in there loads of techniques and exercises to do. So you can basically pull what I call your map of reality apart.
Yeah.
And then put it back together how you want it.
That's just amazing. Yeah. And you're also getting into, I saw, retreats.
Ah, yes.
I ran a retreat before this thing in one of my friends lives out in the Maldives, but not on a resort, in one of the really remote islands, really back to nature, back to the proper way of living out there. And my friend and I ran a Discover Your Vibration retreat a few years ago there, and it was just amazing. And the transformation that you can get with yourself and with people when you take them out of their normal environment is huge, isn't it?
Oh, massively. That's part of the reason why me and my business colleague Claire wanted to do this. Claire's a naturopath, and she originally trained in allopathic medicine and worked in the NHS. And then after 10 years, just lost the plot of it and just thought that, you know, this is not, the pharmaceutical model is not helping people. I need to do something different. So she then trained in naturopathy. And she does cellular health, gut health, iridology. I mean, honestly, what this woman doesn't know about your body at a cellular level and gut health is not worth knowing. And what we both wanted to do with combining what I do and what she does, because it's a full body package, is take people away and educate them for a retreat though. So they're going to get educational sections throughout what we're doing. So they become fully aware of what they are and who they are, and how they can get the best out of themselves. And we'll do them a plan. They're going to get a little bit of the therapy that I do while they're there, so they get the emotional system cleaned up. With a bit of yoga in the morning. And we're going to a beautiful location in Cornwall that has a cold water sea swimming pool and indoor heated pools and walks and animals to play with. So yeah, it'll be a lovely week of just getting people really reconnected and educated. So it's not come away and get patted and then go back to stress. It's actually come away. We'll pull it all apart for you. We'll sort out your emotional system so you're balanced, so you can go back with a plan that you can do daily to then stay out of the old stressor places and keep, you know, pushing your potential on a daily basis. So that's what we wanted to do.
That's fantastic. And I'll be putting obviously all your links below, but all the details for people wanting to find out more about those will be on your website, aren't they?
Yeah, well, actually this one's not, because we went down there in November last year to check the place out. And while we were down there, we were doing quite a bit of social media because we had a lovely time just relaxing and looking at the particular property. And by the time we'd got home, the first retreat that we've booked for the 25th of March was already fully booked out. So we didn't actually have a chance to advertise it.
Yeah.
So me and Claire are now playing catch up. We've got a Facebook page. I think she's done an Instagram page. and we've just got a website being designed for it.
Brilliant.
Because we really weren't expecting it to be fully booked before we done. So we came home and we were sort of like, oh, I think we need a website done right now. And, you know, so we're sort of playing catch up with all the media marketing behind it now, which is quite funny, really.
It's exactly the same as what happened to mine, because when I ran my one, because I work a bit like Claire, your friend Claire does, I do that with animals and their humans sort of thing, because that's always a two-way thing. And it's exactly the same with ours. It was sold out before we even had the time to advertise it. But I can't recommend things like that enough for people, because actually when you get that support and the knowledge and the empowerment, and when you take yourself out of your normal day-to-day environment, it's so much easier to sort of set new habits up for success, isn't it?
Oh, massively, massively. And because of what we're doing as well and how we're structured it, it really will give people time to learn a bit and then integrate, and then learn and then integrate. So they're going to come back with a lot of change. I mean, you normally only remember 16% of whatever you've learned anyway. The process we're using hopefully is going to embed a lot more as well. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to it, because it's going to be a nice change of business.
It would be wonderful.
Lovely to do. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of hard work, but hard work, I love hard work that's enjoyable. I like that sense at the end of the day we go, you know, I've achieved something today. So it'll be nice to have a change and help people, you know, become aware, create some and get some change.
Yeah, it is. And also it's just so, one of the things you always do, Wendy, is you really walk your talk, and, you know, just showing people, because so many people over the last couple of years have been in a situation, whether they feel it's their own awareness or whether they feel it's been forced upon them, of having to relook at where they're at with their lives, haven't they? And actually there's so many people that are saying, actually, you really can do what you love and call it work, you know, and that's so important, isn't it, to show people that this is possible.
Well, it's following your guidance, Catherine, isn't it? That's what you were saying earlier about how do you get from the external back to the internal. You know, I do a lot of heart coherence work, not as much now as what I used to, because it's become so ingrained in my body. I can just do it while I'm walking around the house, you know. So it's like I know when I'm out of coherence, and that's when I put myself back in it, because I do spend most of my time in that place now. I now listen to my intuition, I'd say 99.9% of the time. Whereas before it'd be 50-50 and I'd be questioning it, and you know, I don't want to do this because I might upset them, and you know, I have to say, I've stopped saying yes to everybody. I say no an awful lot now, and everything goes through my system. I run it through my intuition, through my gut, through my heart, and I go, do I really want to do this? No, right, I'll find someone else to do the job. You know, and then when you do that, everything from a decision of what sandwich you want to buy, to what car you want to buy, to where you want to go on holiday, run it through your system. You'll get a beautiful response when you listen, and you know, and it gives you answers. It's like the biggest encyclopedia you'll ever come across. If I need an answer to a problem, so if I've got something I want to find a solution for, I literally sit there and go, right, give me a solution. What do you suggest? And I'll get sentences start coming up in my head, and I write them down. And it sounds weird, but this does happen, people. When you really tune in, you'll just get guidance whenever you ask. Ask and you'll receive. That was always written in all the old scriptures, and it's true when you tune in.
It's so true, isn't it? And I think, you know, in terms of the trying to separate people and keep them apart from people, and we all know when we go out for a drink with our best friends, you know, when you start talking through problems with people, you find that you come up with the solutions. You're not really asking for their advice. It's just sort of like talking it through. And when you talk it through with someone else, so often you've come up with a solution before you've even finished, haven't you?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, social engagements with friends are really, really important.
So important. And doing what you love and what you're passionate about, isn't it? It just changes your energy with everyone else you interact with as well.
Oh, it really does, because I've got certain jobs that I no longer do. I actually pass them to other people now, because what would happen was, and this was before I really paid attention and understood that actually I have no need to chase money, because if I'm doing what I really love, the universe provides and will bring it in anyway. So, you know, when I was building business, because I've been self-employed for about 12 or 13 years now, it's if you don't build the business, you don't earn any money. And I would do anything, literally, you know, when I was saying, I'll take that job, I'll take this job, I'll take that job. And what I found is I was never really saying no to people. I was working a lot of hours, and yeah, I had a lot of money. I was knackered though, knackered. and I had no time for socialise. I didn't want to socialise. I'd get home, literally shut down, lay on the sofa, you know, wrap myself up in a blanket and just sleep, get up and go and do it again. And it made me realise that, you know, over time, the more you connect, it's all a learning. You can't learn everything in one day about your human system. So I just learned over time that actually I can say no to that. Oh, and that gives me a bit more time. And then this job that's just come in has paid me more money, and I like that. Oh, that's interesting. You know, so I just sift and sort, and life, since I've been doing that, really focusing on doing that, on my levels of internal happiness, joy and fulfillment, the jobs have been getting better, and I earn more for less work.
Yeah.
Which means I have more time for family, more time for friends, more time for just laying about and daydreaming if I want to, or walking in the woods, you know. But it is that, yeah, when you really start tuning in, and pay attention though, Catherine, that's the one thing, isn't it? This is what I find with people, you know, certain things, if you ask a question and you want an answer, pay attention when it pops up, because it can come anywhere. I needed a publisher for a book I was doing years ago. This is something, the book still hasn't been written, but I found the publisher. And the reason, I'd just been asking for a children's publisher, send me a children's publisher. And I was at a random network meeting talking to someone who was in nannying. She was a nanny or something like that. And we were chatting. And then at the end of the conversation, she went, oh yeah, and as a sideline, I'm a children's publisher and I travel around all these things, And I was like, thank you, universe. Can I have your details? Because at some point in the future, I'm going to need you. So it's just one of those things, pay attention. When you ask a question, pay attention, because it can come in from anywhere, the solution. But just start asking, what do you want? Now's the time to ask yourself, what do you really want? Not stuff, but this is the thing that people forget. Stuff will make you happy temporarily. That new car, that new house, that new whatever that is out there, shirt, trainers, whatever. You'll get a temporary hit of dopamine off of that. What do you want in here?
Yeah.
This is what life is about, driving towards what do you want in here? What daily feeling do you want to feel that really is going to fulfill you, so you feel like you're having a good life? You know, so forget all the stuff and start focusing on, what do I want in here? Go for the old feelings. And then you'll notice that better things just naturally wander into your life when you focus on how you want to feel.
Such good advice. And I think also, just for people that you're not, you said it quite a few times in this interview, you know, it's not meant to be an instant job. You don't sit down to watch a great movie or to read a brilliant book and want the ending on page 1. We're meant to enjoy the journey, aren't we?
Yeah, that is the whole point. I always say to people, I've had, you know, the old adage of you can't eat an elephant in one go. I never advocate eating elephants, because I love them. It's just a good visual in your head. If you can imagine, you've got this whole thing of life, you know, and you want it all now. You try and stuff that elephant in your mouth, you're just going to choke. So we just take a foot off and we deal with the foot first, whatever that may be, you know, whether it's looking at, like I said, with the awareness, become aware of what goes on in your human system. The language, so you've said the I can't word 3 times today. You go, right, that's the foot I'm going to deal with for the next 7 days. I'm going to look at that word I can't, and every time I hear myself say it, I'm going to go, wow, that's interesting, I've said that again. How can I change it to a positive? What can I do? And that's all you do, 7 days of that, you know, really focusing on that one thing and make that become your new program. And as soon as the I can becomes your new program, you go, what's next on my list? Oh, I use the word don't a lot. Right. So instead of saying what I don't want, I'm going to say what I want for the next 7 days. You know, and that one's the most challenging one for anybody listening now. You know, when you go away from here, notice how many times you say to people what you don't want in life. When clients come to see me, I go, wonderful, you've told me what you don't want 10 times. What do you want? And they'll go, yeah, well, I don't want this to fail. I go, I know what you don't want. Tell me what you want. And to get out actually what you want and verbalize it is a real challenge. But once you do that, your whole language changes. Then your neurochemistry changes with the language. Your body feels better. You get more internal motivation. So, you know.
And again, anyone who's got toddlers or animals that they share their life with, we know when we sit back and look at this, you know, don't ever tell an animal what you don't want to do. The universe other lives, they're picking up the energy of what you're saying. So just like you started off the conversation with Wendy, if you're saying, you know, putting out there what you don't want, that's what the universe thinks, oh, that's what get back. And you never say to a toddler, don't look in that cupboard, and you never say to your dog, don't do that. You tell them what they do want, and immediately they pick up that energy. And that's what the universe is doing to us all the time. But I'm laughing at myself because I know this, but for me, it's still a daily work in progress always. But at least I recognize it now when I'm doing it. So that's always the first step, isn't it?
Yeah, I've seen some funny things with kids. One in particular, a friend of mine, her granddaughter stood at the top of the stairs holding some shoes. Now, my friend knows this about language as well. And she went, don't you dare throw those shoes down the stairs. And you could see this child, she's only about 4, go,
Yeah.
Don't you dare. She went like that. She just went, like this, and threw them, because the don't word doesn't compute.
Doesn't compute.
So you just do what you think someone wants anyway. You know, we know this with neuro training. Don't think about a pink elephant.
Yeah.
Don't think about a blue ball. Don't imagine, this is when you can use it actually, don't imagine being really happy and abundant right now. You know, so that's when I would sneakily use a don't, when I want someone to imagine something really good.
Yeah.
But language is power. That's why they call it spelling, because it's a spelling.
And I was just listening just before we came on to a brilliant latest one by Max Egan, and there's just so much on that there. When you realize these things and you get those little aha moments, then it just takes you on to the next step really quickly, doesn't it? It's fun this as well, isn't it, Wendy? It's really good fun when you realize what's been programming you. You've said all the way through this, once you've got that awareness, then you can do something about it.
Yeah, and that's the way to look at it, Catherine, as well, isn't it? Like it's a game, it's a good fun game. So I'm going to catch myself out on the negative stuff. I mean, I always say to myself, you know, in my head, I have this little saying, or you'll know any coaches that have been trained by me because they all do this. So I'll say to myself, I go, that's interesting. Like if I feel an emotion that's, you know, not great, or even if I feel a good one, I go, wow, that's interesting. I seem to be really happy today, you know, and because I want to know why I'm really happy. And then if I ask myself why I'm really happy, never ask yourself why you're down, by the way, because it will open up a big loop of stuff. But I go, why am I really happy? And then my brain will go, oh, because this happened and this happened and this happened. And I'll go like, wow, everything's good. But I start paying attention. But just say to yourself, have little phrases like that, that when you hear something, like if you feel a bit of anxiety, you go like, look at it and go, wow, that's interesting. Where have you come and what are you connected to? Do I really need you today? No, I choose something else. You know, or maybe it's because you've not dealt with something, then deal with it and it will go. So it's like I say, follow the guidance and have a bit of fun with yourself. You cannot do everything in one day.
Yeah.
Just pick the little bit and, you know, progress slowly day by day. And then you've had 365 days of progress if you do it every day for a year.
It's just brilliant, isn't it? I've enjoyed this so much, Wendy. There's so much more I want to speak to you about. So I really, really hope I can persuade you to come back on again, because I just think this is so useful to people to see, you know, you look back, you've really had situations in your life that would have knocked anyone off their perch, and look at where you are now. You must feel really, really proud of yourself.
You know what? I had someone say to me the other day, and this is interesting because I actually don't, and this is going to sound weird. My whole entire life I just want to run again. I just want to run again. So it's really funny, like all the trophies you see above me, you know, I've got loads of them, all the certificates that are all over my walls, all the experiences I've had are all to me. They're a bit like, I need to be running,
Yeah.
you know. And someone said to me the other day, it was about the retreats. It was a little flippant comment he made to me, and it made me suddenly stop, because I do reflect every day on what went well, what could I improve on. I do that every day regardless. But I've never felt pride until my mate did this to me the other day, and he said, all it was, you know, like you say, the epiphanies that come in, and I don't know why this one has only happened now, but I said about the retreats, and he said, you should be really proud of yourself for what you're about to do. And I don't know why, but it anchored me up in that moment. And I was like, wow, I should be proud of myself. And it was like, wow, actually, I should be proud of myself. And I've not been proud of myself. And maybe I've been doing myself a disservice by not being proud of myself. So, yeah. So now I do, when I reflect, I go, what does pride feel like? Because we're told, aren't we, don't get too big for your boots and all that sort of stuff, and people say, there you go.
Particularly being British.
Yeah, but pride's a lovely feeling. Yeah, that lovely, it's a lot. When I tune into it, it's like, oh, it's a lovely feeling in the chest. It's a bit like love.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I do now feel pride for what I've done, whereas previously I didn't.
Well, I'm proud of you. I think everyone listening to this story is proud of you. My dog's Indy on the couch there is proud of herself, and Pumpkin's proud of himself. Thank you so much, Wendy. Any parting words you want for people before we...
Just as I said, you know, you're more than you actually think you are. Just start becoming aware, because the universe is always listening, and it will only ever say yes to you.
Fantastic. So in the comments below, I will be putting in the little info box below all Wendy's contact details and everything, and hopefully we can come back again soon and continue this brilliant conversation. Thank you so much, Wendy. Really
Catherine, been an absolute pleasure, and I know you're coming on the radio show as well, which I'm so looking forward to.
I know, I had the most fun choosing the songs. I couldn't nail them down, so it was such good fun. So yeah, really looking forward to that. Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening.